I think equity release definitely has a role in funding retirement in the future. There have been a lot of changes in the makeup of retirement income, and we're expecting even more in the future. So, for example, there's been an end of defined benefit schemes for many people being replaced by defined contribution. The introduction of auto-enrolment is going to mean that many people have small amounts of private pension saving, and the government's just announced big reforms in state pension reform, which means that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about what people actually have. What we're going to find, I think, is people come up to retirement, perhaps don't have the income they thought they were going to have or that they might need, and so certainly the potential to release equity from perhaps their biggest asset at that time in their house is going to have a very important role in funding not just the end of their retirement, but potentially right the way through.
Our research is looking into the role that equity release can play in lifting pensioners out of poverty and then the associated macroeconomic impact of that. We've had access to a unique data set from Just Retirement about their existing customers for the equity release product, and combining that with our own data, other published data and our macro models, we've assessed various different scenarios, the take-up of equity release on the impact of lifting pensions out of poverty and then the associated impact on the macroeconomy. Looking at the characteristics of those pensioners defined as being in relative poverty, you find that 58% of those receive no income from occupational pensions or personal pensions. A third of them have no investments or savings, but 60% of them own their home outright. Now, clearly that data suggests the role for equity release for those types of pensioners in enabling them to lift themselves out of poverty.
I think one of the most stunning findings from the macroeconomic analysis is that it's possible to rescue up to 1 million pensioners from poverty if only we can help them access some of the wealth stored in their homes. That's a policy challenge definitely worth pursuing.
Of the pensioners in poverty, that's below 60% of median national income, 60% of those own their home and could be embarking on equity release. So at once you have a key to helping 60% of the poorest pensioners get out of that state, and I thought that was a very striking finding indeed.
I think equity release has a very important role for people in retirement. It's been a very narrow band of people who've benefited so far from equity release, and if it can be broadened, that's all to the good.
People will choose equity release products if they think they represent good value to them. One thing that we found with our research is that people actually tend to underestimate their own longevity, and that means that products like equity release and perhaps also annuity products can appear bad value to people because they think they're not going to be around very long to enjoy them. So one possibility would be to increase greater public awareness of actually the sort of long-term spending pressures that people face in their own lives.
I was a little surprised at how few people do take equity release, 16,000 odd in the last year. If you consider it's out of millions of people over pension age who own their home. I think there are deep psychological barriers to taking out equity release. People don't like having paid off their mortgage, they don't like taking another mortgage, which is just about the only alternative. They don't like feeling that, as my mother once put it, I don't want to let anyone else have the deeds again. She was very concerned about that.
There needs to be an education programme to move them away from the concepts of the earlier, perhaps less successful and riskier products that were around, because that still exists in people's memories.
So one of the things that would help to spread the word and the message about equity release is for financial advisors to make sure that when they're talking, not just in retirement, but at retirement, about how someone's going to maximise their income and make best use of their capital in retirement, that they always, as a matter of fact, include issues around what equity release might be able to bring to that.
So one of the investments we need to make, both within the private sector, but also looking for help from government, is start to raise awareness about this whole debate about how you can use housing equity. And I think a universal source of information available through local authorities and other third sector organisations, where people can feel that they can trust the advice they receive, will be a very, very welcome initiative. So government and industry working together in partnership.